The Hourglass Collector Part 1. The inheritance of Blackwood Manor did not believe in welcome. It squatted on the hill, a jagged shadow against the bruised purple of the evening sky. Its windows like vacant eyes. Rain lashed down in cold, angry sheets, turning the gravel drive into a churning gray stream. Marcus was the first to arrive, his black Mercedes cutting through the storm like a scalpel. He was the eldest. A man built of sharp angles and expensive suits, who believed all problems could be solved by leverage or liquidation. He hadn't seen the manor in 12 years, and hated that it was exactly as he remembered, a monument to decay and his father's suffocating ego. Olivia arrived 10 minutes later, her practical Subaru sputtering up the drive. She was the middle child, an art historian who had spent her life trying to restore things, including, unsuccessfully, her own family. She emerged from her car, clutching a worn leather satchel, her gaze fixed on the house with a familiar blend of resentment and sorrow. They waited in the grand, frigid foyer, the silence broken only by the storm and the ticking of a grandfather clock that was, imperturbably, set to the wrong time. "He's late," Marcus said, not a greeting, but a judgment. He was checking his phone, though there was no signal. "He'll be here." "Marcus," Olivia said, rubbing her arms for warmth. "He's always a mess, a liability, a child." A gust of wind slammed the front door open, revealing Finn, the youngest. He stood silhouetted against the rain, soaked to the bone, a cheap canvas backpack slung over one shoulder. He was a photographer, a drifter, a man who documented the ruins of other people's lives while his own lay in pieces. "Sorry," Finn mumbled, running a hand through his wet hair. "The bus was late," Marcus simply sneered. "Welcome, children." The voice, dry as parchment, came from the shadows. Mr. Vane, their father's lawyer, emerged from the library. He was a small, nervous man who looked as if he'd been filed away and forgotten. "Mr. Blackwood." He was very specific about the time. 9 o'clock, sharp. "Please, follow me." The library was their father's sanctuary. Dark mahogany shelves groaned with books he'd never read, and taxidermied animals stared down with glass-eyed malice. In the center of the room, on a massive oak desk, sat not a pile of documents, but a vintage reel-to-reel tape recorder. "Your father," Vane began, wringing his hands, "had unconventional stipulations. He insisted his final words be delivered by him, and him alone, and you must not interrupt until it is finished." Vane pressed a button. The reels began to turn with a soft whir, followed by a crackle of static, and then Arthur Blackwood's voice filled the room. It was just as they remembered, deep, resonant, and dripping with contempt. "My children," the voice rasped, "my 3 great disappointments. You are here for a reward, but you have earned nothing. You lived your lives as parasites on my name. So, I will not leave you money. I will not leave you this house. I will leave you something far more valuable. I am leaving you time." Marcus scoffed. "This is absurd. Please." "Marcus." Olivia sit, her eyes fixed on the turning reels. "On the mantelpiece," the voice continued, "you will find 3 objects. My final, most prized collection. You will each choose one. Marcus, as the eldest, you will choose first. Olivia second. Finn, you will take what is left. As always." The 3 siblings turned. On the marble mantelpiece, gleaming in the low light, sat 3 antique hourglasses. The first was the obsidian cage. It was stark and modern, made of polished black volcanic glass, its frame rigid and severe. The sand within was of fine, metallic silver. The second was the ivory heart. It was carved from what looked like antique bone or ivory, etched with weeping figures. It was beautiful and tragic. The sand within was a deep, unsettling crimson. The third was the rusted coil. It was a crude, heavy thing bound in blackened, rusting iron. The glass was warped and cloudy. The sand within was a pale, sickly ash gray. "A death, even from the grave," Olivia whispered. Marcus Sever. The pragmatist stepped forward. He analyzed them for value. The obsidian cage looked the most expensive, the most controlled a peaked. Eat up. It was cold to the touch. Olivia, drawn to the story, the emotion, gently lifted the ivory heart. It felt warm, almost alive. Finn was left with the rusted coil. He picked it up, its weight surprising him. The iron was rough against his skin. You have made your choices, Arthur's voice boomed, a note of grim satisfaction in it. And so, the game begins. A faint hiss came from the hourglasses. All at once, the sand in all three began to pour. What is this? Marcus demanded, turning the hourglass over. The sand simply reversed and began to drain again. These are not mere objects, Arthur explained. They are your lives. The sand within represents your remaining time. Look closely. You have, let's say 2 hours. A generous endowment, I think. You will notice the sand drains at different speeds. Some of you have lived harder lives than others, wasted more time. Finn's pale ash sand was pouring frantically, faster than the others. Olivia's red sand fell in a steady, grim stream. Marcus's silver sand was the slowest, but it was draining nonetheless. This is insane. Marcus shouted at the recorder. How do we stop it? Olivia cried, her knuckles white as she gripped the ivory heart. Yes. Stopping it, the voice mused. You cannot, but you can pause it. To earn your inheritance, you must complete a series of tasks. You must find the truths I have hidden in this house. There are 3 in total. Find a truth, and the hourglass of the one it belongs to will stop. Fail to find them all before the last grain falls, and your time, quite literally, runs out. A heavy click from the recorder, and then silence. Mr. Vane, Marcus said, his voice dangerously low. What is this? Bane was pale, backing toward the door. The will is binding. I was instructed to give you this. He fumbled in his pocket and produced a yellowed envelope, sealed with black wax. And then I was instructed to leave. You're abandoning us, Finn said, his voice small. My sincerest apologies. Vane fled the room, and moments later, they heard the front door slam shut, followed by the sound of an engine roaring to life. They were alone. Finn's hands were shaking. He looked at his hourglass. The top bulb was already nearly a quarter empty. We have to do this. We have to play. Marcus ripped open the envelope. Inside was a single, heavy card with their father's elegant, cruel handwriting. The first truth. It lies where the first lie was told, where the family first grew cold. Break the silence that it holds before your own story folds. The siblings stared at each other, the weight of their shared, broken history pressing in. The first lie, Olivia said, her voice trembling. In this house, there were thousands. No, Finn said, his eyes distant, staring at the rain-lashed window. He means the first lie, the one that mattered. Marcus looked pale. The nursery. Olivia's breath hitched. Mothers, porcelain. They all remembered. Marcus, 8 years old, had been showing off, climbing the high shelves. Olivia, 6, had dared him. Finn, just 3, had been watching. The priceless porcelain figurine, their mother's favorite, had shattered. When their father demanded to know who was responsible, Marcus had pointed to Sarah, the new young housemaid. It was the first time they had seen their father truly cruel. Sarah was fired, her reputation ruined, her tears ignored. It was the first time they had conspired, their silence a shared toxic bond. Break the silence, Finn muttered, his eyes wide. The nursery. There was that old, broken music box, the one mother brought from her home. It never played again after she left. Let's go, Marcus commanded, pocketing the card. They ran. They fled the library and pounded up the grand staircase, their footsteps echoing like heartbeats. The second floor was cold, but the third, where the nursery was frigid. The door was locked. Finn, Marcus yelled. Finn, the family locksmith. The boy who'd learned to pick any lock to hide from his father pulled a thin strip of metal from his wallet. He jammed it into the keyhole. Click. Click. The door swung open with a groan. The nursery was a tomb, furniture covered in dusty white sheets like tiny ghosts. In the corner on a small, warped table sat a silver music box, tarnished and silent. "My son," Finn panted, holding up his hourglass. The pale sand was draining. "It's barely half full." "This is the lie," Marcus said, his voice tight. He walked to the music box. He tried the lid. It was sealed shut, as if by rust or time. "Break the silence," Olivia urged, her crimson sand falling. Marcus, in a fit of pure, controlled rage, grabbed a heavy brass candlestick from a side table. "Stand back." He brought it down hard on the music box. Crunch! The silver box shattered, splintering into pieces. But there was no mechanism inside. No gears, no cylinder. Just a small black velvet bag. Marcus's hand shook as he emptied its contents. It was not a key. It was not. Note. It was a single, heavy, iron coin. On one side, an hourglass. On the other, the word, Veritas, truth. The moment Marcus's fingers closed around the cold metal, a change occurred. He looked at his hourglass. The silver sand, which had been draining steadily, froze. The last few grains hung suspended, defying gravity. It stopped. Marcus breathed, a wave of profound, selfish relief washing over him. "My sand." It stopped. It was safe. Olivia and Finn stared, first at his frozen hourglass, then at their own. The red sand continued to pour. The pale ash sand continued to pour. "Marcus," Olivia said, her voice a tiny, frightened thing. "What about us?" Marcus looked at the heavy iron coin in his hand, then at his two siblings, his expression hardening. He had his truth. He was safe. Before he could answer, a loud click echoed from the hallway. A new sound. From the floor below, the tape recorder in the library whirred back to life, its static hissing up the stairs, and from it, their father's voice, as if it had been waiting, echoed through the manor. "Well done, Marcus. One truth found. But the next is for the one who carries the heaviest heart." End of part 1. Subscribe and like the video for more content like this.